The American people are faced with a monumental choice that will have severe repercussions depending upon what the people choose to do. This video is to warn the American people that if they continue down this same road, even with minor changes to the current political system, it will inevitably spell doom for the America. And not just as a superpower. The American political system needs to be corrected immediately, as Fareed Zakaria alluded to in his special CNN segment, America's Best Days Are Behind Us. Most people in the U.S. would say that the U.S. is a democracy, a representative democracy where people are free to do what they wish as long as it does not interfere with common law, statutory law, or infringe on anyone else's rights. And this interpretation would be correct. Of course, it should be noted that the U.S. was originally established as a republic and kind of morphed into a democracy. But anyway, America is essentially ruled by a majority vote, where the people decide through representation what laws should be changed or added. This is what the whole world wants, more freedom. Libya, Egypt, Syria, Iran, and other Middle East countries all want this type of democracy. In essence, everyone does what is right in their own eyes. This phrase should sound familiar to biblical scholars. This is not a call to return America back to the 1800s like Glenn Beck or Ron Paul advocate for. For those times, America also was not in its superb form. This is also not a call for liberty or constitutional law, as we have seen democracies, societies with maximum freedom in history, usually ancient civilizations that were not empires, have always converted to anarchism and then dictatorship. It's somewhat ironic in that most of the proponents who advocate for freedom and constitutional law believe in the Hebrew God. And Judges 21:25 in the Bible clearly narrates a story of a society that did what they wanted and was consequentially punished by the Creator. This is a call to return people in America and all over the world back to harmony with nature, mankind, and themselves. A Native American idea, right? True, most Native Americans hold this philosophy, but this is not the point. Regardless of who advocates for what, we must all come to realize that our planet, our homeland, cannot sustain the type of living standards we are currently having. So what government am I advocating for? It is not the type of government that matters. Like I said, we have evidence of this in Judges 21:25. The book of Judges illustrates a period of time where the Israelites went through different forms of government. They tried kings, as in a monarchy, republics living based upon an established rule of law, judges without any formal leader, and of course democracy, as Judges 21:25 illustrates. All of these forms of governments failed. Why? Because the Israelites always chose man over God. They wanted to live according to man's rules and live like their neighbors and the Gentiles. Why? Because it allows them more freedom. Living under God's rule requires restraint, obedience, and simplicity, not an attractive way of living, right? With this said, the best government is one that is part monarchy without the right of survivorship, kingship, or royalty inheritance, and one that is part republic. We know that the human race always desires a king or ruler. We also know that the best form of government is one that allows the most freedom, with the least chance of anarchy, and that is a republic. In regards to a socialistic society, they are good in that they advocate strongly for the poor and middle class. However, they require a large government and high taxes. A socialistic form of government could conceivably work in a utopian society, but we are not in a utopian society and never will be. Socialism's redistribution of wealth is not necessarily the problem. The problem comes in the management of the funds and the distribution. Industries have to be regulated, and people have to become too uniform. This is not an ideal society. Man is not a brick. We are not all the same. Each and every person has a different fingerprint and genetic code. Man is more like stone, as Mr. Glenn Beck put it. Therefore, socialism and communism won't realistically work. Of course, capitalism will not either. Capitalism, the beacon of prosperity, right? Wrong. Capitalism is the creation of greedy, evil money worshippers. Greed in civil societies and moralistic societies is never acceptable. It is easier for a man to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. This is virtually saying that any rich person is inevitably doomed. Why would this be the case? These rich people give back to charities and employ people, right? But there is something they cannot do while they're in good health, and that is, and of course I make mention to Warren Buffett, pledging to give 85% of his wealth to the Bill Gates Foundation gradually over time. This is, I guess you could say, a good thing, However, foundations like the Bill Gates Foundation, YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, all these foundations established by movie stars, athletes, they have good intentions. But these foundations, obviously, as we have seen, do not fix the problem. But I'll leave the discussion for where the money should be going for another video. Capitalism creates prejudices, a ruling class, elitism, economic disparities, wars for national interest and ideology, and abominable sin. It is not the people who do this, it is the system that encourages and nurtures this type of behavior in this social system. Now, in order for a monarch republic to work, it must be funded upon universal principles. As a republic works off of established law, the U.S. Constitution, I must admit, is the only document ever written in history, other than the Torah, that describes a set of rules in which the people of a land have to live by. But that also gives the people a large amount of freedom. The document can still be used for America's rebuilding, but most probably will need to be ratified later. The major action that must occur right now is shutting the federal government down. Only essential functions should be allowed. All representatives that served more than 2 terms must be removed from office. Any senator that has served more than 1 term shall be removed. None of these positions shall be replaced with an individual who has direct ties to former or current leaders of state, investment firms, unions, government entities, royalty, and large corporations. The president shall finish his term, and the next president must meet all of the same guidelines mentioned earlier, and they must also adhere to the terms described in Deuteronomy chapter 17, 14 through 20. Regardless if you're religious or not, the terms still hold true. If a person cannot be found, then no president shall be elected, and judges shall be elected temporarily until a king is chosen, or a president. This president or king will not have the normal rights of a king, as I mentioned earlier, and will be bound by the people of the land. Government spending will be reviewed. Like Obama said, but did not do, a team will need to be put together to go through the entire spending budget of the government and cut what is not essential. People may call this radical thinking, but it is a must and has to happen. This includes entitlements. If not, America will enter the history books as an example of what not to do. The talk is over, the action is now. The 2012 elections is the only time left for Americans to change the direction of this country and keep their way of living. Currently, Americans are asleep and going along with the program. So far, your only choices are either re-elect Obama or choose someone from the field that has been handpicked by the Republican Party. A change needs to come to America, and it will be up to the American people to decide the fate of their own country. There will not be another opportunity to do so without severe repercussions. Let's